Every night on a cruise ship, something most passengers never see happens quietly behind the scenes. When the buffet closes, when the lights dim and the music stops, entire trays of food disappear. Not scraps from plates, not half-eaten meals. Perfectly cooked food that no one touched. Most passengers assume it gets donated. Others think it's reused. Some quietly wonder if it ends up in the ocean. The truth is far more controlled and far more unsettling. A cruise ship isn't just serving dinner. It's running one of the largest moving food operations on Earth. And once you understand what really happens to buffet food after you walk away, you will never look at a cruise buffet the same way again. Number 1. The illusion of endless food. Cruise buffets are designed to look unlimited, and that is not accidental. On a cruise ship, running out of food is considered a failure. Every single day, the ship has to feed thousands of people on a fixed schedule. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, late-night snacks, day after day. There are no quick supply runs, no nearby warehouses, no second chances. If a popular dish runs out, passengers complain immediately, and complaints at sea spread fast. Because of that, chefs are required to over-prepare from the very beginning. Extra trays are made, backup dishes are ready. Food is cooked not just for what will be eaten, but for what might be needed. This creates a strange situation. Even before the first passenger walks into the buffet, waste is already guaranteed. It's not because the chefs are careless. It's because feeding a floating city leaves no room for error. And this is where the leftover problem truly begins. Number 2. Why untouched buffet food is already dead. The moment food reaches the buffet line, its fate is sealed. It does not matter if it looks perfect. It does not matter if no one touched it. Once food is placed on a cruise buffet, it can never go back. By law, that food is officially considered served. On a buffet, hundreds of passengers pass the same trays. Hands touch serving utensils. People lean over food. Even breathing and movement matter. There is no way to guarantee that food hasn't been contaminated, even if it looks untouched. And at sea, food safety mistakes don't affect 1 or 2 people. They can affect the entire ship. Because of that risk, cruise food rules are absolute. No judgment calls, no exceptions, no second chances. When the buffet closes, entire trays of perfectly good-looking food are removed. Not because they are bad, but because safety always comes first. And this is where the real waste begins. Number 3. The food safety rule passengers never hear about. On land, restaurants can take small risks. At sea, they can't. A food poisoning outbreak on a cruise ship is one of the worst scenarios possible. There's nowhere to send people, no nearby hospital, no easy way to contain it. If hundreds of passengers get sick at once, the entire voyage can unravel. Cabins turn into sick rooms. Medical staff get overwhelmed. Ports can refuse entry. That's why cruise ships operate under far stricter food rules than most restaurants you've ever visited. If there's even a small doubt about safety, the food is destroyed. Not evaluated. Not saved for later. Destroyed. This isn't about being wasteful. It's about preventing a chain reaction that can shut down an entire ship. And once food leaves the kitchen and reaches the buffet, there is no turning back. Number 4. The strict line food can never cross again. Inside a cruise ship kitchen, there's an invisible line that chefs are trained to never cross. Food that stays inside the kitchen can still be evaluated. If it was prepared but never served, it may be safely reused in other dishes. But the moment food crosses into the buffet area, everything changes. Even if it looks untouched, even if no one took a single bite. Once it crosses that line, it is no longer considered food. It is classified as waste. From that point on, there are no judgment calls, no last-minute decisions, no exceptions made by chefs. Its destination is already decided. And that's when the process moves out of sight, down below deck, where passengers never go. Number 5. The machines hiding below the buffet. Once buffet food is removed, it doesn't go into ordinary bins. And it definitely doesn't get thrown away in the way most people imagine. Deep below deck, cruise ships are fitted with industrial food processing systems most passengers never see or even know exist. These areas aren't part of the guest ship at all. They look more like a factory than a vacation. Uneaten buffet food is collected and sent through massive grinders designed to handle huge volumes quickly. Entire trays go in at once. Food is broken down into small uniform particles so it can be processed safely and consistently. From there, the waste moves into powerful dehydrators. These machines strip out moisture, shrinking the volume dramatically. This single step alone can reduce food waste by up to 80%. What looked like full trays of food upstairs becomes dense, dry material below deck. Easier to store, easier to manage, easier to track. But this system isn't just about space, it's about control. Wet food creates odor, bacteria, and safety risks. Dry waste is stable, predictable, and easier to contain. That's why cruise ships invest so heavily in these machines. Everything is monitored, how much waste goes in, how long the machines run, how much material comes out, and every kilogram processed costs money. Energy to power the machines, space to store the waste, and fees to offload it later at port. Nothing about cruise food waste is casual or accidental. It's planned, it's measured, and it's calculated. Number 6. The hidden crew handling your leftovers. When passengers leave the buffet and head to shows, bars, or their cabins, another operation quietly begins. These aren't chefs, they aren't waiters, and most passengers never see them. They're the sanitation and environmental teams, and they work around the clock. Day shift, night shift, port days, sea days. No breaks in the system. Their job is handling everything passengers don't think about, especially waste. Food from buffets, glass from bars, cardboard from deliveries, used cooking oil from the kitchens, packaging from thousands of supplies brought on board. Nothing gets mixed casually, everything is separated. Below deck, their workspaces look nothing like the luxury areas upstairs. No ocean views, no polished floors, just stainless steel rooms, heavy machinery, hoses, control panels, and logbooks. This is where leftovers are sorted, processed, and documented. Every step follows a procedure, every load is recorded, every kilogram is tracked. Because waste costs money, energy to process it on board, time to manage it safely, and fees to offload it at port. Mistakes aren't just messy, they're expensive. And in some cases, they're illegal. Without this crew, the ship wouldn't function. Kitchens would back up, waste would pile up, operations would grind to a halt. Passengers rarely think about them, but this hidden crew keeps the entire ship running, quietly, constantly, and out of sight. Number 7. The technology watching every single tray. Cruise ships don't rely on guesswork anymore. There's too much at stake for that. Behind the scenes, advanced tracking systems monitor almost everything that happens on a buffet. How much food is prepared, how much is taken, and how much ends up as waste. Some ships track this by tray, others track it by individual dishes. On newer ships, the data is updated in near real time. Every single sailing feeds the system more information. What worked, what didn't, what was popular, what barely moved. Over time, the system learns patterns that humans would miss. Passenger demographics matter. Ships with more families prepare differently than ships with mostly adults. Ships with more American passengers see different demand than ships with mostly European guests. Itineraries matter too. A short weekend cruise behaves very differently from a long repositioning voyage. Even weather plays a role. On hot days, heavy meals and rich dishes are quietly reduced. Cold weather increases demand for soups and comfort foods. None of this happens randomly. In many cases, it's no longer the head chef making these decisions. It's an algorithm. These systems predict demand before passengers even step into the buffet. They adjust quantities automatically, sailing by sailing. Because of this technology, many cruise lines have already cut food waste by more than 40%. Not by removing choices, but by making less of what people don't eat. Passengers still see full buffets. They still feel like they have endless options. They just don't see how carefully controlled those options have become. Number 8. Turning leftovers into fuel and energy. On newer cruise ships, food waste doesn't always stop at storage. After buffet leftovers are ground down and dehydrated, some of that waste goes through additional processing systems designed to extract value from what would otherwise be thrown away. Advanced onboard technology converts this processed waste into usable byproducts. In some cases, it helps support onboard systems. In others, it reduces the amount of external fuel or resources the ship needs to rely on. This doesn't mean cruise ships are running on leftover food, but it does mean that waste is no longer treated as useless. The goal is efficiency, less wet waste stored on board, less material offloaded at port, fewer trucks needed to transport it, lower handling and disposal costs. Older ships don't always have this capability. On those vessels, food waste is still processed and dehydrated, but then stored and removed at port for specialized treatment on land. That difference matters. Every time waste is offloaded, it creates additional environmental impact. Transport, processing, fees, emissions. Not every ship works the same way, but the direction across the industry is clear. Each new generation of cruise ship is designed to waste less, process smarter, and rely less on outside disposal systems. It's not a perfect solution. Some waste still remains. Some energy is still consumed. But compared to how cruise ships handled food waste in the past, the shift is dramatic. What once disappeared quietly is now measured, processed, and accounted for, step by step. Number 9. The laws that control what can go into the ocean. Cruise ships don't get to decide on their own what happens to food waste at sea. That choice was taken away a long time ago. The ocean is governed by strict international laws, and cruise ships are watched far more closely than most people realize. Breaking these rules doesn't result in a warning. It results in investigations, lawsuits, and fines that can reach into the millions. Food waste can only be released into the ocean under very specific conditions. It must be fully processed, it must be ground down to a certain size, and the ship must be far from land. Even then, nothing happens quietly. Every discharge is logged in detail, the exact time, the ship's location, the amount released, the system used. These records aren't optional. They're reviewed during inspections, audits, and port checks. Any inconsistency raises immediate red flags. Because of that, most cruise lines avoid ocean discharge whenever possible. The legal and reputational risk simply isn't worth it. In the past, mistakes were easier to hide. Ships were farther from scrutiny. Records were easier to manipulate. Today, that's no longer the case. Modern ships are monitored. Data is cross-checked. Patterns are noticed. The sea is no longer a place where problems disappear. Every action follows the ship, sometimes for years. And when violations are discovered, they don't stay quiet for long. Number 10. The truth behind zero waste cruise claims. You've probably seen cruise lines advertise zero waste or zero landfill ships. It sounds impressive. It sounds like the problem has been solved. But that wording is carefully chosen. In most cases, zero landfill does not mean zero waste. It simply means waste isn't sent to traditional landfills on shore. Instead, that waste is handled in other ways. Some of it is recycled, some of it is processed on board, some of it is incinerated, and some of it is treated once the ship reaches port. So the waste still exists. Zero doesn't mean nothing, it means redirected. Some waste is burned in advanced onboard incinerators. These systems are far cleaner than older ones and operate under strict controls. But they still produce emissions, they still consume energy, and they still leave behind a residue that must be handled. Other waste is offloaded at port for controlled treatment on land. That involves transport, processing facilities, and additional resources. In other words, the waste doesn't disappear. It just changes form and location. Cruise lines are improving. Cleaner fuels like LNG are becoming more common. Processing systems are getting smarter. Tracking and reporting are becoming more transparent. But there is no such thing as a zero-impact cruise ship yet. And there may never be. That doesn't mean progress isn't real. It means the language around it can be misleading. Because calling something zero waste can make it feel finished, when in reality it's still a work in progress, and pretending the problem is solved only delays the next step forward. Number 11. Why cruise buffets are quietly changing forever. This is the truth everything else has been leading to. The classic cruise buffet, the one built on endless trays, overflowing counters, and the feeling that food will never run out, is slowly disappearing. Not announced, not advertised, but quietly redesigned from the inside out. For years, abundance was treated as luxury. The more food you saw, the more premium the experience felt. Rows of identical dishes, towers of desserts, trays constantly being refilled whether people were eating them or not. Overflow meant success, empty trays meant failure. But that way of thinking came at a cost, and cruise lines are finally being forced to confront it. Today, real luxury is being redefined. It's no longer about excess. It's about control. It's about quality. And it's about sustainability. Cruise lines are realizing that mountains of food don't impress passengers the way they used to. What passengers actually want is food that's fresh, well-prepared, and available when they want it, without the waste happening behind the scenes. That's why future cruise buffets are already starting to look different. Fewer massive trays sitting out for hours, smaller batches prepared more frequently, more live cooking stations where food is made specifically for the person ordering it. Not because cruise lines want to give passengers less, but because they want to waste less. A dish cooked to order doesn't sit under heat lamps. It doesn't get replaced just in case. It doesn't get thrown away untouched at the end of the night. Behind the scenes, data is already shaping these changes. Every sailing feeds the system. What people eat, what they skip, what gets thrown away. If a dish consistently underperforms, less of it quietly appears on future sailings. If something is popular, production increases, not dramatically but precisely. Passengers still get choice. They still feel like the buffet is full. They still walk away satisfied. They just don't see how carefully managed that experience has become. This isn't about removing options, it's about refining them. In the next decade, the cruise buffet you remember today may feel outdated. A reminder of a time when abundance was confused with quality, when more food meant better, even if much of it never got eaten. The shift isn't happening for image reasons anymore, it's happening out of necessity. Stricter laws, higher costs, more scrutiny, more awareness. And passengers are part of that change too. Every time someone overloads a plate and leaves half of it behind, the system absorbs the cost. Every time someone takes smaller portions and goes back for seconds, the system works better. So the next time you walk through a cruise buffet, remember this. You're not just choosing dinner. You're participating in one of the largest moving food systems on Earth. A system designed to look effortless, while quietly balancing safety, cost, regulation, and environmental impact. And now that you understand what really happens after you walk away, you'll never see a cruise buffet the same way again. If you enjoy uncovering the real truths behind cruise life, the things most passengers never see or think about, make sure you're subscribed. And let me know in the comments, what surprised you the most about cruise buffet leftovers? Because this is just one of many cruise secrets hiding in plain sight.